There we
All
go.
right, how's that?
Okay, perfect. Okay, so hi, welcome.
Hey there.
I'll just like introduce you quickly, and then you can just like tell us like a summary of what you do, and then I'll dive in with some questions and stuff, and you can promote whatever you want if there's anything specific you want me to talk about. Otherwise, this channel is mostly about um, cool projects and their creators. So anything scary, whether it's a movie, comic book, board games, video games, whatever. We're fans of anything scary and stuff. So, and of course, looking at the creation process of it and giving advice to those who want to like get involved and so on. So fans
Okay.
and creators basically. And then I'll probably just ask you so where it all gets started and what motivated you, and creativity and inspiration and all that stuff. So cool.
All right, great. Here, do you
Okay.
mind just give me a second? I'll be right back.
Sure thing.
Okay, great. Let me readjust my thing here. Let me turn that off in the background. Whoops. Well, all right. There we go. Oh, can you hear me? All right.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so just to double check, I pronounce your name right. It's Khaldoun Khelil.
Khalil. Yeah.
Okay, Khaldoun Khelil. Okay, awesome. From where are you in the world?
I'm in DC. I was born in Algiers, in Algeria, North Africa.
Okay.
But I moved here when I was 3, Washington, D.C. I've lived here basically my whole life. Well, not in D.C., in America. I lived in New York and L.A. for a while, too.
Your sound just went way down.
Oh, weird. Is that better?
Yes, there we go.
Here, I can
Okay.
put my mic more directly in front of me. Maybe that'll help. How's that?
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Welcome, shadow dwellers and creators, to the House of Shadows and Ink. Today, my guest is Khaldoun Khelil, and we are going to talk awesome projects. But I'm not going to like go jump in too far. Khaldoun, welcome.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks for having
Oh,
me on.
it's definitely a pleasure. Thanks for being here. So, uh, tell us in a few minutes, like, what do you do? What brings you here?
Uh, Well, I mostly write horror role-playing games, RPGs, also,
Nice.
short fiction and things along those lines as well. I'm mostly known for my work on Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem. I've also worked on, Dungeons and Dragons, Werewolf the Apocalypse, the new Dune role-playing game. We won a few awards for that, for writing, actually. Um, and yeah, a few other role playing games here and there. I've done some work that has made it into video games, but really my bread and butter is writing for RPGs and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Excellent. I've actually been thinking today of creating some sort of game night thing here in my local town because I don't think anything like that exists. We didn't have Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff when we were young. So hopefully I can get some people to come and play role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons and whatever. I'll definitely.
Oh,
I didn't even.
where are you located? Where you said South Africa?
Yes, Bloemfontein, right in the
Oh,
middle.
oh, okay.
So
So, oh, that's too bad. I would think that
mm,
South Africa would be great for Call of Cthulhu if you're on the coast.
yes, I know Cape Town. It's quite big. Magic the Gathering is quite big
Oh.
but it seems like it's an expensive thing to get into because there's like a league and stuff. So you have to. That's the only availability is jumping into a league and like you. But yes, I didn't even know there's a Dune role playing game. I'm a big fan of Dune. Like since I read the book as like a teenager, maybe even before that. So that's cool. So how did you get into this?
Oh, well, I played role playing games since I was pretty young. I'd say like third grade maybe is when I got into role playing games. So I was pretty young when I got into role playing games. I didn't really play too much until I got into actual high school. Like I mostly just like read the books and thought about playing, but it really probably wasn't until I was end of middle school, beginning of high school that I actually got to play some. I think like Champions and superhero role playing games were basically where I started. And my friends were really interested in writing for games, and writing was always something that kind of came naturally to me. I would write actually humorous stories pretty regularly, and I was part of my literary magazine in high school. Writing poems and things like that. Um, so it just kind of came naturally that if it was something I was interested in, I was going to write about it. So that's kind of how it happened. Is some friends of mine got offered some work on a project, and they, asked me to help them work on it. And that was actually my very first role-playing game credit. It was actually for Vampire the Masquerade in the late '90s, early 2000s. Was Cairo by Night. Um, and then, yeah, ever since then, I've worked piecemeal, kind of part-time in role-playing games. And I'd say I didn't really get to doing it kind of almost, semi-professionally until I started going to conventions and meeting other writers and mostly publishers. And, once they could put a name to a face, then the work came more often.
Oh, that's very cool. I never actually thought about like writing only for role-playing games. I mean, I think so many authors are like well suited for it. And that's the thing. These days, there's so many opportunities in like different formats. You don't just write a book. I mean, there's so many things you can work on, and everyone's just like, oh, it's either a book or a screenplay. But I mean, even role-playing games, we're getting authors involved in like board games and comic books. There's so many things you can do with a great story. So that's just proof of it. And so, like, even as a young person, like, how did you? I mean, was it just you saw the world differently when it comes to like storytelling and wanting to put words to paper? Like you said, you were in the school paper as well. Just a gift you had.
Um, well, no, I don't know. To be honest, I I don't actually know what got me started to writing. To be honest with you, I when I was growing up, I had like issues with writing. I still have very bad handwriting. I had poor
Oh,
like fine
same.
motor control kind of issues with my hands. And so I had to do a lot of writing exercises and things like that. And then I started using a kind of typewriter, an electric typewriter,
Mhm.
and that really made my words like flow easier, and I just kind of became addicted to the electric typewriter. So I would just write pages and pages of things, um, and maybe it's just the environment I was in. So my friends and acquaintances, they would write humorous stories, and we would kind of pick up each other's stories and pass them along and kind of elaborate on them. Um, and I guess I just kind of did that a lot. So I would produce a lot of just kind of random writing that was really only for the consumption of my, friends and my little social circle. Um,
Nice.
so I don't think I really saw the world differently or anything like that. I just think that I got into the habit of writing, and that's really it. I mean, I wish I had that kind of work ethic still. When I just was strictly writing for pleasure, it came more freely, and I produced a great deal more than I do now, for sure. Writing for other people. Once it becomes kind of a job, then it can, the flow can be a bit more difficult. But in general, approaching writing as you know, not just work, but as something that you work at, I think is important. That you don't wait for a bolt of lightning to inspire you.
Yes. Well, it sounds like you had awesome friends. Like, if, I think if my friends would have read anything that I wrote, I would have kept writing. But yes, that's very cool. So you're like, don't take that for granted. You're very lucky there. Because I think it's like, and I've actually said that to someone this week. Like, what you do with the people around you, the people you like. I mean, it's like our parents when we were young, like, oh, be careful who your friends are, kind of thing. It does make a difference in the long run. Like, if you spend time with creative people, with other writers, with artists, whatever, it's like everyone just lifts each other up, just like someone can drag you down, kind of thing. And it's good to also be friends with people who push you a bit, like, and allow you to expand. Like your friends helped you with your writing, and you helped each other. So that's very cool. And I love the whole role playing game thing. So if I mean, so you've worked on a bunch of IPs, but have you ever considered like writing your own thing? And like, let's say now that's done. Like, what do? Like, do you submit it to publishers just like an open submission period, or how does it
Well,
normally go?
yeah, I mean, I have worked on some of my own IPs. Nothing that I would want to, get published or put out there as of yet. But from what I've seen, being in the business, it's really, yeah, about either you put it out there on your own, with a Kickstarter, something like that. That
Mm,
seems to kind of, in my opinion, I think that's probably the best way to go about it is to control it and to own it. Um,
true.
I've seen, way too many horror stories of what happens the other way around. But, the other way around is to go to a publisher that you have a relationship with. Um, Hopefully there's some like trust there, and then you basically pitch it to them. And if they're interested, then that makes your life a lot easier when it comes to distribution and marketing and all that stuff, and maybe even in the polished creation of the item. The only real issue becomes who owns it in the end, and what
Mm,
you get out of it, and what kind of creative control you have over it after the fact. So I would say that if you do have your own IP or want to make your own game, then the fastest, easiest way to go about it probably would be to approach a publisher that you already have a relationship with, that you've already been writing for, if you're already in the RPG business, and see if they're interested. Um, but as far as like creative control and all that, I think you're probably, if you can and you're comfortable with Kickstarters and that kind of thing, then
mm,
go with that. I've never published my own IP. Like all the stuff that I write for me is for me. Like I don't think I've really put together a game that is for other people as of yet. Yeah.
And I mean, I know you write fiction as well. So what's the main difference in the way you approach the two different types of writing, or is it very much the same?
No, it's very different. Yeah, I would agree. I write fiction, but probably because the fiction is for me, and I've only recently tried to get some of my fiction published. Um, I'd say I probably don't tackle it. I probably just pick at it, here and there, and kind of bring it out of the shelf. Like a lot of the stuff I like the best, I've probably been picking at for like years or whatnot. I'm sure if I like actually uh, sat down and did it, I could produce a lot more, and that's what I like to do. But for all the RPG writing, a great deal of it is either I'm servicing like a community
Mm,
who has expectations of me. Like I do a lot of writing for community content and Storytellers Vault for Vampire the Masquerade and stuff like that, and World of Darkness. And so I have a whole product line that I'm strictly producing on my own with a team that I've put together. And so there's a community of folks that kind of through Patreon and that. that I kind of service, I guess, and so that feels very much
Cool.
like a job and an obligation, and that really gets me motivated to produce for them. So when I'm writing fiction, since that's mostly, I guess, just for me, I've just recently kind of decided to try and get it published. I haven't really approached it that way. So I think it's kind of a change in mindset that I'm still going through now.
Mm.
But you're right in that I do approach it in two very different ways. I guess when I'm writing for others, I very much have them in mind and kind of the I guess the whole milieu or theme that I'm working in. While I'm writing for myself, yeah, I can tend to be very much more nitpicky and kind of concentrate on more details, and maybe just be much slower about it than or more precious about it, I guess, than I would
Mm.
be otherwise. Yeah.
And role-playing games specifically, is it? I mean, you need to leave some space for the player's own creativity and their character. Like, I'm just thinking now with Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, each guy has his own character that they've developed, whatever, and they're putting it into that game. Um, how do you give them space, or do you concentrate more on like setting description and the story, and not the characters?
Well, I mean, for role playing games, characterization is important, but mostly what you're doing is you're creating characters for the um, either the other for the players, what we call the player characters, basically the main characters, the real main characters. Yeah, it is kind of interesting because in role playing games, if you're writing the main characters, you're doing it wrong. Like the main characters are the people playing the game, and so you kind of have to orient around everything around this like void about this group
Yes.
that does not exist in any real sense. So you can only talk about them like obliquely. You can set out goals for them and set out what we call like plot hooks. Usually you would do a
Mm.
few of them because you want something that you want enough of them so that any group can go in. Because like one group will be your classic heroes, will be like, oh, obviously we want to save the kingdom. Another group is going to be playing more, oh, we're just here for the money. And maybe another group, you kind of have to hook them with like romance or something that really tugs at their heart or something like that. So you'll want
Okay.
different threads or hooks to kind of lure them into the adventure and keep them interested throughout. And since you can't know what the player characters are about, you want kind of varied situations. And so the characters, the NPCs that you're writing, are very much you're gonna give a little flavor of their characterization, but it's really about how they interact with the story and the players, who as I said, could vary very much. So you want NPCs that are you don't want them to run too much of a gamut. Like obviously, you don't
Mm.
want an NPC who's both a villain and a love interest and a helpful quest giver and all that all wrapped up in the one. Like you can do that, but you're not going to write that for every NPC. Like each
Mm.
NPC is going to slot into a specific role, and right, they're just there to kind of move the story along and therefore move the player characters along. So yeah,
Excellent.
characterization. Um, is something when you're writing for role playing games, you very much have right like these absent characters in mind
Mm.
that you can't write.
So for the NPCs, what what characters or roles should every game have? Like, is there like a
Mm.
list of like five must-haves?
Not necessarily. I mean, it depends on the like adventure and the themes of the game, and the purpose of things. Like some RPGs can be much more about individual characterization and the role play of the individual characters, a lot less than say, achieving a goal
Mm.
or something like that. Like I think classically, when we think Dungeons and Dragons, we think there's an objective of some kind. You have to defeat this monster. You have to like get this treasure, something like that.
Mm.
And that's kind of the classic old school role playing game. But I'd say more modern well, not modern, but I'd say in the '90s, early 2000s, you got more of the kind of like the character role play games where really the objective wasn't necessarily to do anything, whether that's Call of Cthulhu or Vampire the Masquerade or whatever. Like in Call of Cthulhu, you very often fail. You're fighting against these like insurmountable forces. So it's really about kind of the horror of the situation and the characterization of that horror and all that. But sometimes you have some wins. And then in Vampire, of course, classic Vampire is this like kind of bite and cry genre, where it's like, oh, I'm terrible, I'm a horrible monster, I'm woe is me. So very in that kind of like goth aesthetic. It would eventually kind of move into a more action, superheroes with fangs kind of oriented kind of game. But I think in the original, in its original way it was played, it was more as I say about the characterization, the role play. And now with more modern games, you see a lot more. You see that the game is built around the idea of characterization and that kind of like social group dynamic, that the mechanics kind of reinforce the group play and the role play, and how the characters interact with each other and not just the world around them. Like you'll see that a lot in like Powered by the Apocalypse games, like Masks and the rest. That talk about basically that have mechanics that support that kind of play. So I feel like role-playing games have evolved a great deal. They came from this kind of like simulationist background. It's like, well, what if you want to throw a rock? Or what if you want to, climb a rope? Or what if you want to hold your breath underwater? And so so they just like pack the rule books with all these rules for every possible circumstance to kind of simulate real life. And now I feel there's more of a balance to kind of the narrative design, which as writers I'm more comfortable with, because I'm trying to tell a story. I'm not really too concerned with how many bullets come out of a machine gun in 3 seconds or something like that. Doesn't really matter to me.
So, well, like you said early on, you got a team together, because this sounds like a lot of work. I mean, is it possible for one person to do it all and then do a Kickstarter or whatever? I mean, is it just the writing? Do you need artwork?
Yeah, it's possible. I have a friend who basically is a one-man, game company. He's a very talented, right? He's a very talented artist. He writes, and he does like board game pieces and 3D printing, and he's very comfortable with Kickstarter and all that. But I think that's pretty rare. I think there are very few competent writers out there who are also good artists. I don't consider myself a good artist. I have a background in graphic design, so I'm very comfortable with using Photoshop and photo manipulation. So yeah, very often when I'm writing community content, I will be doing all the art myself and all the layout myself and all that. But I wouldn't consider that my strong suit. I don't think I would be able to pursue that as a professional career. I think the strong suit of my work is the writing, and that hopefully people, forgive me for the art. I think it's, I would say it's a B plus kind of stuff for like covers and this and that, like art pieces. I feel like there's a lot of Creative Commons things that you can use, because with community content particularly, and especially when you're doing it on your own, the main drawback is the margins are so thin that it's very difficult to work with an artist and pay them, what they deserve for the work.
True.
So unless you're selling a lot of units or something, it's very difficult to find an artist who's going to be able to produce something worthwhile. So if you can do it on your own, which I do, I use Creative Commons and like stuff that I can license, that I don't have to license, that I can then photo manipulate and use on my own. Then I feel that I can then the writing hopefully will carry the book beyond what I can do artistically. But yeah, mostly the team I have around me are other writers. There are artists I do work with on a regular basis, but usually on professional projects, not on well, I hate to say professional, but usually on projects for publishers, not anything that's community based.
Oh, that's nice. So you do have a Patreon page, you said, where you
Yes.
do the
Yeah, I have a
stuff.
small Patreon page. It's all, I mean, you can donate to me and sign up and give me money there for sure. But everything on there is free. I mostly just post on it like 2 or 3 times a month, I think, just to give an idea of what's coming out or what I've published or where I'm going to be speaking. Like when I go to Gen Con here in the U.S., which is like the big gaming convention, I usually
Nice.
work with the Writers Symposium there. They have a kind of convention within a convention, and I speak on panels there. Sometimes I speak at other conventions. Or if I'm publishing a book, as I said, on the Storytellers Vault, I publish things pretty regularly.
Mm.
Usually doing with like bad vampires like the Sabbat and all that for Vampire the Masquerade. So yeah, I think I just published last month. I think we put out like 3 slim volumes to kind of accompany what we've been publishing so far. It was quite a productive month where everything just kind of clicked and we were able to push things out the door. We've been meaning to finish for quite a while, so that was nice. Um, so yeah, my I don't actually know what my Patreon is. I guess it's K
Oh,
Khalil maybe or something like that.
don't worry. We'll put it in the description for
Oh,
folks to
okay.
check
All
out.
right.
I'll definitely also follow and probably put it in our newsletter, stuff like that. We love
Oh, okay.
promoting. We love promoting creators and interesting projects and people and everything. So whenever you do launch something new, you have my email. Come back on the show, or just let me know and we'll put it on the newsletter. The whole idea of this channel is to eventually have a place where creators can come and announce, shout loudly to the world, here's my new Kickstarter or book or movie, board game, whatever. Um, we're just going to build up a massive community because I realized when I went to America earlier this year for the Horror on Main convention that not everyone can attend all these conventions,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And we also yearn for that kind of like community thing. And a lot of the people who were there, they were like movie fans, readers, they were gamers, they were some of them were heavy into like just the artwork. They follow these specific artists, doesn't matter what they do. I mean, I was speaking to a tattoo artist last week who also does book covers and stuff, and people want the characters on them. So I know we'll definitely promote, and I'll check it out myself as well. So if people want to see, basically, let's say someone is interested in that, in writing for that, I'd say follow you, check out your projects, play a lot, and maybe like write something and play it with your friends. I mean, definitely. For instance, I wouldn't be able to write one now because I haven't played. Um,
Right.
well, I play PlayStation games and stuff. I've played all those kinds of, uh, what do you call it, RPG games. But I haven't played like the one that you have a story and you have to follow and make your own choices and all that kind of stuff. So I'll have to get some experience in that area. But any other advice for people who want to get started in this?
Um, well, yeah, I'd say definitely play. Like, find the games that you like. If you don't like playing role playing games, then writing them is probably not for you. I would say. Just like
Sure.
if you don't like to read, then writing is probably
Mm.
isn't for you either. Like I'd say the first step to any kind of writing is reading, and enjoying reading, and making time for reading if you can. Not necessarily a physical book, but somehow. Um, and so it's the same with role playing games and games in general. Is you have to play games, whether it's board games or role playing games. And board games is a very different creature than role playing games because there's different dynamics in play and kind of
Mm.
keeping people interested in the play at the table. But yeah, I'd say play games is the first step. And then if you really get the bug and you want to write your own, then I would say the first thing is to decide what is the game doing, what is it for. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, I say that, but that's often what stops me is from writing my own games. Is I don't need to write this. Since I know all the goddamn games, I'm like, I can just play this, or I can play that, or I can play this. Like I'll generate the game that already exists for what I'm shooting for. But that shouldn't stop you. If you want to write a vampire game of your own, then write a vampire game of your own. I would simply say, what is it doing for you and for your players? Like, what is this game about? And once you've decided that, then the mechanics of the game, because that's really the main difference between, I'd say writing a story and writing a game is the game is going to have some rules, as they don't have to be that. It can be anything from rock, paper, scissors to dice to just, negotiation of some kind that adjudicates how things happened and why. They don't necessarily have to have a random element, though most games do, usually dice, sometimes cards. So that, if there's a contest or something is in question, then, it can be settled one way or the other. And you as a player have some agency. So in a book, the characters really technically don't really have any agency because what they're going to do has already been written. So like the very first page, when you open a book from the very first page, that character's fate is already decided by the end, unless you're playing a choose your own adventure. So in a game, no one's fate is decided. The eventual outcome of the story is not decided, and we're all creating a story together. So when you write your game, I would say that you need to decide what the game is for. What is it about? Is it a critique of capitalism? Is it, is it supposed to get you in the mindset of a certain kind of character? Is it a perusal of like morality or ethics of some kind? Is it about something? And the mechanics should reinforce that. Like as I said, Vampire is a great example I always give of a game that originally had a very terrible mismatch between its mechanics and the themes of the game. Like the themes of the game were about, you're a monster now, and your humanity, and boo-hoo, I had to bite somebody to live. But then half the book was like, about how many bullets come out of a machine gun, and how much damage a bat with spikes through it and do, and all that, which is fun. I enjoy all that stuff, but it didn't really enforce the play or the themes of the play. So when you think of the rules of the game, I wouldn't get hung up too much on the simulation. I would look at ways to enforce the style of play and the themes that you want to address to enforce your story.
And now I'm stuck on what I wanted to ask. Like I'm paying so attention that I get these questions, and then I'm like, I lose myself in your conversation. Yes, so what was I'm gonna get it now. I'll edit this bit out. Man, it was with the I'm mesmerized whenever we talk about Vampire Masquerade. Okay, yes. So if you write for an IP that's not yours, like how many rules come with that? Because I mean, there are certain things that they must have that you're not allowed to make happen or have happen. Is it much harder, or is it actually easier because the world is already there?
It depends. I mean, I have been writing for that IP for so long that, yeah, it's almost second nature to me. I feel like I understand the playground and kind of the borders and the fence that I'm allowed to play within. So I very rarely trip over something that I, shouldn't discuss or whatever. I mean, at the end of the day, they have editors, and some IPs are stricter than others. Like nowadays, Vampire the Masquerade, I'd say, is pretty strict. Like when I was writing for it in the early 2000s or whatnot, or in World of Darkness in general, not really Vampire the Masquerade back then, except for that one book, you could kind of really do whatever you wanted. There wasn't a lot of oversight. You could really put whatever you wanted in the book, and very rarely would anybody say anything or critique it. Like the editing for like grammar and typos wasn't even top notch, let alone like for story. I feel nowadays they're much stricter with the what you're allowed to say or do with the story. They have a much tighter control over it, which obviously is a bottleneck. I mean, that slows things down. I feel like back in the day, that's one of the reasons we had so many books coming out constantly, is because we didn't have a tight control over that thing. So that it's a give and a take, whether that's good or bad. Definitely, there are a lot fewer books coming out nowadays than in the past. But I feel that's more have to do with, kind of the corporate environment or whatnot. When I worked on Dune, for instance, actually, we were expecting that to be very strict, and to basically have a kind of constant pushback from them. Like we had heard, not stories specifically about them, but other people who work for IPs, especially like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, like those big IPs, where they're very strict with, what can be put in the books. But maybe we were just like that good. I have no idea, but they were very easy to work with. No issues whatsoever, actually, which was kind of a shock and a surprise. It went very quickly. So it really depends. I think if your team is very knowledgeable of the IP and what you're working with, then you don't have that much to worry about, especially if the head of the project really knows what they're doing. And so for Vampire, I very rarely ran across things where I wrote something and they were like, no, that's not going in. It happened a few times, but it had nothing to do with like the IP. It was much more about an American company than anything else. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. Like, I'm very intrigued in this stuff, and I hope other people are as well. So any IPs that you would be like a dream project for you to work on?
Well, I really like to do more with Dungeons and Dragons, just because it's such a huge IP, and it kind of is, it's ubiquitous, and it's what I really started with as a child. So it has a special place in my heart, regardless of the edition. So I'd love to work with Dungeons and Dragons, especially like Forgotten Realms, stuff like that, or Al-Qadim. That was another setting which I was a big fan of when I was younger. And Cyberpunk, I would definitely love to work on Cyberpunk. I'm a huge Cyberpunk fan ever since the original game came out in the 90s, or I guess 80s actually. Cyberpunk 2020. So those are definitely IPs that I would love to work on. There is actually a Witcher RPG. I would probably like to work on that too. Yeah, because I'm a huge fan of the Witcher books and the games, of course.
And like you said, there's a bunch of books for like every game. So it's not just like the book is one adventure. There's also the overall arc that needs to be looked at, the world creation, whatever. So I mean, it's a big project. It's like an author writing a series, but much more complicated, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, like from my own experience, my team wrote a book called The Black Hand Playing the Sabbat, which was basically all about this sect of vampires called the Sabbat within the Vampire the Masquerade setting. And it really detailed them as a playable sect, faction cult group of vampires, and like what they're all about and the rules for that, and their kind of religious, politico, esoteric trappings. So with that book, you're able to play the sect and create those vampires and tell stories with it. But we also wanted to put out books which were actual adventures. So you could do whatever you wanted and create whatever you want with that book. It's kind of the like sandbox. And then the adventures are basically like, well, here's an example of one thing you could do. Like, here's an adventure about, getting attacked by these vampires and being turned into one against your will, buried alive, and then you come up and suddenly you're a vampire. What do you do? Right? Like, that's the kind of premise of the adventure. Obviously, it's kind of like an intro adventure. That's Our Graves Are Empty. And then we have other adventures from there that we put out. So it can become a series because you want to write for everyone's level of experience on some level. So there are some people who all they need is the rules and the kind of like the sandbox like setting book, and then they're good. They'll come up with their own stories. They don't need you to come up with NPCs and cities and situations and obstacles and all that. But then there are other people who maybe they're new to the game or they don't have the time for that kind of thing, and so they will require the hand holding is the wrong word, but they're going to require more guidelines to kind of get there in the end.
So for, let's say now, a beginner player, any of your books or games that you would recommend they go check out first, just to like get into it, and where can they get it?
Yeah, sure. So most of my stuff is on the Storytellers Vault, which is drivethrurpg.com. And it has a section called the Storyteller's Vault, which is all World of Darkness stuff. And there I have the Black Hand playing the Sabbat, and Our Graves Are Empty, Lost in the Garden, and all kinds of books. You can just search for my name, and I think 30 or so titles pop up. I don't make money off of most of those because those are from the publishers, but most of my recent stuff, I actually I get a percentage of every book sold, thankfully. Because I'd say that's the main issue with RPG writing as opposed to being a novelist or even a screenwriter is it is all work for hire. So when you write for a publisher, whether they have a very big IP or not, you are not going to get any kind of residuals or points or any kind of ownership. Nothing is going to revert back to you. Every word you write for them, hopefully you'll be paid for, often per word. In RPG writing, the scales are usually pretty low. I'd say kind of the floor scale is like 10 cents per word in America. And if you're getting paid lower than that, then, you should demand much more. And then a high or good rate is about twice that, about 20 cents per word.
Okay.
And so it doesn't pay a lot, and that's all you get. Once you deliver your words, they're going to pay you. Usually they pay you half at delivery, and then half basically when the work is published. Some places pay you the full amount up front, but everybody's different. So it's not going to make you rich, RPG writing, and once it's out of your hands, once the words are out of your hands, they don't belong to you. You've got no claim on them, and they can do what they want with it, and you're not going to see any residual payments on that. Only in community content work can you get paid basically per sale. And even then, the publisher IP and all that, they're basically going to take upwards, at the minimum, 50%. Is the minimum they will take. If they only take 50%, then you should count yourself lucky in that regard, which is understandable because a lot of the draw there is the IP. And even that is not going to be, a lot of money. So as far as a career is concerned, it can be difficult to be a freelance RPG writer. You're probably going to want to branch out into other things so that you can eat. Yeah.
True. No, I think these days, any author, I've told them, like, don't just write books. Look at other things you can do. I mean, some authors do ebook layouts, they do cover design for people, they do workshops, and like even at Crystal Lake, I mean, I do a whole bunch of other stuff as well, just to like bring in money, support the company, because I mean, sometimes some months you have slow sales and you need money to work ahead. Like we're already doing book covers and editing for books well into next year, because you have to work way ahead of schedule. Well, this was very cool. Like any last advice to any authors out there? any creative people, any life experiences you can share?
Hmm. Um, I'd say, seek other people with your interests. That's the main thing.
True.
That kind of was a thread throughout our discussion, I guess. Is you don't have to not all of your friends have to be writers or like horror freaks or whatever. But you should seek out people of your own interest. It doesn't have to be at the convention or anything like that, but obviously that's a good place to find people. Because that really is a great way to get your juices flowing and to get your finger on the pulse of what's new and see what you can bring to writing or a situation or a dynamic that's new and interesting and creative. And also, I really love working with people. I mean, that's one thing I'd say that is very different than my fiction and novel writing, which is a very kind of like lonely pursuit in my the way I do it. As I really like the collaborative process and working with people, and in game writing, that is very much kind of the standard, is working with a team of people to come up with things and kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. Like it's very rarely do you pick up a novel and there are like three or four authors listed on the cover of the book. Like that almost never happens. I can think of like maybe like one Stephen King book I read that had another author, or maybe like The Gripping Hand for sci-fi. So that is another thing that you can kind of be missing out on. If you don't branch out your experiences, and I feel like working with other people, talking to other people, it can really do a lot for your own process and your own success. Yeah.
True. Oh, thank you so much, Khaldoun. This has been wonderful. Yes, so we'll put all your links in the description. We'll definitely also follow you, and I everyone else go check it out. If you're still watching this interview at this time, it means you're definitely interested and you've found your place. Check out all the work and the links, and again, let us know when anything new comes along, and we'll be sure to promote it. Thanks again for
Okay.
coming on the show.
Yeah. No, thanks so much for having me. This was a real pleasure. I appreciate it.
And